Thanks so much. Great to be back in St. Johns County. Thank you so much. Great to be here. It's a great morning. We're here. We've got a lot of folks that you're going to hear from that I think is going to be really exciting, including our First Lady, my wife Casey, our Florida Department of Children and Family Secretary Taylor Hatch, Lead Hope Navigator Liz Phillips, Hope Florida participants that you're going to hear, Katrina Daly and her mother Cynthia, and of course Anchor Faith Church Pastor Earl. Thank you for hosting us today. And then we also have Hope Navigator Aaron Pallone, so I want to thank him for being here. So the state of Florida, it's interesting, we're ranked #1 in economy 2 years in a row by CNBC, #1 in education 2 years in a row by U.S. News and World Report. Over this period of time, if you look since I became governor, if you take all 180 years of Florida's history and all the debt the state accumulated over that time, we've retired 41% of it just in this term, and which is good. We have the lowest number of state workers per capita in the entire country. We have almost quadrupled our rainy day fund since I've become governor. And the state that's closest to us in population, New York, they now have 3 million, at least 3 million fewer residents than we do in Florida, yet our budget is less than half the size of New York's budget. What are they getting for this? Are they getting better education, road service? Of course not. And we've also returned over $7 billion in tax relief to Florida taxpayers since 2019, which we've never done that much in that period of time in the history of Florida. And so, and look, I've got to use my authority, veto things from the budget. Sometimes you got to do. That's just the way it goes. But we've really set the standard of how to do this in a way that respects taxpayers, that is paying down debt, cutting taxes, but is also meeting the needs of the state of Florida. I mean, we've done more for infrastructure than anyone's ever done. We've done more for education than anyone. We've done more for conservation and environmental restoration than anyone's ever done. So things that really affect the lifeblood of the state, we've done very, very well on. And so that's a great model. It's great to do. Now, that's not the only way that we've been able to provide value for the taxpayer. And so Hope Florida is something that the First Lady spearheaded a couple years ago. It didn't cost any money to do. It basically said, started off with child welfare, but has really expanded beyond that. We have so many of these government programs that have been around, some of them since like the 1960s with the war on poverty. And the job, you go into a government office and the bureaucrat is kind of programmed to just say, okay, what programs can I get you on? And the problem with that is that can sometimes become a culture, and the dependency then develops on always being able to access some of these programs. It hasn't done a very good job of giving people a hand up and actually a pathway to self-sufficiency. So she saw, and I agreed, that we have a lot of great resources in the state of Florida outside of government, and especially when you talk about our faith community. We've got all these churches that basically they're there to serve God and to help their fellow man. And so we need to harness that. And we have charitable organizations. You have businesses. Certainly I know in St. John's you've got businesses that are actively involved in the community, want to be helpful, and then individuals who just want to volunteer and make a difference. So all of that is there. But how do you actually, if someone needs a hand up, if somebody needs help, how do you link them with that? Because a lot of times people just don't know where to go to because it's just like, you're in a tough spot. You don't know what resources are out there. So Hope Florida really represents a revolution of how government approaches these problems. And so instead of being a bureaucrat trying to get people on as many government programs as possible, these folks have been repurposed to be navigators to navigate the person in need to all the other resources that are available outside of government. They even have a care portal where all the Hope Florida participants are plugged in. Somebody needs help, it goes out to the folks in the community, maybe the church, maybe charities, maybe some businesses, depending on the needs. And then all of a sudden, you have folks that can really spring into action. And the thing about that type of help is that's the type of help that can lead people to a pathway of self-sufficiency and ultimately expand their horizons in life. And so this is something that has been successful. And so since the advent of Hope Florida, and honestly, like, you know, it was started a few years ago, but I mean, really got going in a big way within the last 2 years. The initiative has helped more than 30,000 Floridians to reduce or completely eliminate their reliance on public assistance. Thanks to this success, Hope Florida will save taxpayers over $100 million per year, $1 billion savings over a 10-year period. And so that is, you want to talk about Doge and stuff, and we've been doing Doge in Florida for a long time, but this is a way. You're actually not even cutting any program per se, but you're just making those programs unnecessary for people because they're able to stand on their own 2 feet. That is the best way to save money and to save resources. And so that's what we've seen that's happened with Hope Florida. Now, other states have seen the success, and some other states have come and they have tried to learn about it and they're modeling it. You know, there's other states that they're intrigued by the results, but then when they find out that the faith community's involved, some of the more liberal states, they don't want to do that. They don't want to partner with the faith community, and you know, they can do it how they want, but I think that's a big mistake. I think you're leaving so many resources out on the table. I think you have folks in the church that this is their program to want to help people. This is what they do. And so to say you're not going to be interacting, and nobody's forcing anyone to do anything, but if you have somebody maybe that gets evicted from their apartment, a mom, single mom that's got 2 young kids and she needs a place to stay, and that goes out in the care portal and the church comes, you know, they're going to be able to get her in a good situation much easier and probably much more effectively than some of these bureaucratic programs will. So we're harnessing the energy in the state. We're harnessing the goodwill to be able to help people in need. And ultimately, when you're serving as a facilitator, when you're serving to help navigate people around the community to see what's available to them and to help put them in a position to succeed, that's the best role for government. The role for government can just simply give checks indefinitely and expect things to magically get better. That just doesn't happen. It's been tried. It hasn't worked. So far, not only has it saved over $100 million, it's not only limited to child welfare. I mean, obviously the Department of Children and Families is the premier agency that deals with issues affecting, of course, child welfare, and that has a lot of the focus on Hope Florida, and they have helped over 120,000 Floridians through Hope Florida with the Department of Children and Families. But we also have other agencies that have actually been in the fight. Our Agency for Persons with Disabilities have made over 11,000 referrals through Hope Florida. Department of Elder Affairs, over 6,000 referrals. Department of Veteran Affairs, over 1,000 referrals. Juvenile Justice, almost 1,000. And Department of Education, about 500. And so you see people that need help in all kinds of different ways. And we're going to be working on and announcing in the near future specific expansions to help with child care and to help, because, you know, a lot of these churches do child care, and they do. And then you also have children with unique abilities and being able to use these resources to help them. So we're going to be working on that as well. So stay tuned for that. So this is not something that's only limited to the Department of Children and Families. The philosophy of repurposing how government functions and serving to really be a navigator and a facilitator, that spans agencies throughout the state of Florida. And that's going to save more money. And look, the money's important, and I started off talking about Florida's great record of fiscal. I can tell you, if you were in Illinois, you'd be getting taxed to high heaven with no end in sight because they've got all these unfunded liabilities. Same with California, same with New York. New York, you pay massive amounts of money for tolls when you're going, especially when you're going around New York City, but you drive on those roads, it's like being on a roller coaster. It's so bumpy, the roads, they don't take care of the roads. I'm like, where does all this money go? If I'm paying a $9 toll to go over some bridge and then I end up with these bumpy roads, it's like you get motion sickness on doing it. And then, where would you rather go need to get a driver's license? Would you rather go to the New York City DMV or would you rather go in Florida? You're going to get it quicker in Florida. I know you will get it quicker here in St. John's because I did that back in the day. So it's just the services are just night and day. The taxpayer treatment night and day. Obviously, we have a big budget surplus. We're doing things, and that's really important. And being good fiscal stewards is important. So to be able to save money, to be able to obviate the need for folks to be on different programs, that's important. But much more important than that is these individuals being able to expand their horizons, to be able to give them some hope that they can actually do really important things. And life's not easy, life's not fair. There are things that come, there's curveballs that are thrown at you. But you're not in it alone. You got a lot of people in your communities throughout Florida that want to help, and that they're there to help. And that's really meaningful for people, and that can make the difference in so many different ways. So I'm really grateful that they were able to make such a big difference. We have announced earlier this month we were in Pensacola, and we announced that Hope Florida now has a liaison station in each of our 28 state colleges. Because if you think about it, the state college system, some people go from high school to state college, and there's great programs, nursing programs. We've supported a lot of that workforce. But then you also have folks that maybe are in a transition part of their life. You do have a lot of single moms that end up trying to go and get some education so that you can support a family. And there is a need for this at our state colleges and universities. And so we were also able to announce recently that there's a Hope Florida liaison in each one of Florida's 67 sheriff's departments. And if you think about it, who sees some of the things that, some of the misfortune in society more than law enforcement? They're just out, they see this stuff, and they do have a liaison now that can plug in some of these folks that need help through Hope Florida. So I'm really excited about doing that. Now we have over 120 businesses around the state that are recognized as Hope Florida employers. And so when people are looking out for employment, they want to work, they want to be self-sufficient, there's a number of businesses that are there. There's been almost 2,000 individuals referred to CareerSource through Hope Florida that have obtained a job or received help that help lead to them increasing their earnings. So that's something that's very, very significant as well. We highlighted one of the stories. We had Ginger come to our State of the State address and how Hope Florida helped her get her GED and then complete a certificate for physical therapy. So she's now doing that and is somebody that is able to support herself without the need to have constant government support. So all this stuff is really significant. You have, the agencies have really been transformed. And I think a lot of the people who are involved as navigators, and you'll hear some of that today, this is much more rewarding to be a navigator and to be able to see the horizons open. So I'm very proud of that, and I'm proud of what they've been able to do. We also use the Hope Florida model for disaster response. And so Activate Hope was kind of the central place, because what happens in these disasters, and fortunately we don't, I shouldn't say fortunately, hopefully we won't, I'm counting my chickens before they hatch, hopefully we won't get a major hurricane this hurricane season, but we've had 6 major hurricanes in the last 7 years in Florida, and so we're prepared. We obviously work hard to do the immediate response, and there's a lot that goes into that, from power restoration to bridge repair, anything you have to do. But then you have kind of, okay, some people may need help elderly may need help clearing debris off their property. Someone may need help repairing something, gutting their home. Unfortunately, people get water in their home. They have to do different things. Some people need a hot meal. So you have these organizations that do come. Organizations that'll come serve food. Organizations that'll come and show up at your house and help work on helping you do it, especially for people that aren't in a position to do it. So there's all these different resources that can descend, particularly when you have really major events like we had with Hurricane Ian, like we had with Hurricane Helene, and even Milton. They come. But how do you know what to do? Well, now through Activate Hope, they plug in to the Hope network. The Hope bus will show up at some of these places where we do points of distribution. And so these organizations are now plugged in, and the word can get out, and people have an ability to get linked to the support that they need. So you notice in Florida, it's not easy dealing with this. FEMA's been a big pain. I know it's been slowing things down in the Gulf Coast of Florida, the West Coast of Florida, in the aftermath of both Helene and Milton. We work very fast in Florida. FEMA's a bureaucracy, and it causes some things to do. But that being said, from the state's perspective, we work really hard to get a rapid bounce back. And you do see that more so than any other places. I mean, I was just down in the Sarasota area. I went to a charity event, and I'm going down like on the beaches. I mean, they got hit by Helene and Milton, and I'm looking, there's people everywhere. They're putting up more buildings and doing all this stuff. If you didn't know that there had been you probably wouldn't even realize that there had been a storm. I don't know that that would be true in a lot of other states. But part of it is because we've got a lot of folks that want to come in and help, and I think that that's really, really significant. So I'm proud to be able to be here to say that we've got something that is that's working. We're expanding. We're not going to let anybody slow us down. Don't misunderstand. When you see some of these political attacks, that's just because people know this is effective. That is because they're threatened by this model. Some people are threatened politically because the First Lady's been so good at doing this. But that's what that's about. It's not about the actual substance of this. And shouldn't we, as Floridians, put aside political agenda to embrace things that have actually lifted people up, offered them hope, and put them on a pathway to self-sufficiency? You should not wield political agenda to try to kneecap something that is helping people do really, really big things. And so I appreciate all the partners that we have throughout the state of Florida. Our churches have been amazing in really leading the charge here. I don't know that we could have done even nearly as much of this without having the faith-based community there with us side by side. So on behalf of the state of Florida, thank you for being in the fight to help people. Thank you for putting your money where your mouth is, and we can report we've had great results, but the best is yet to come. Okay, our First Lady, come on.
It's good to see everybody. Thank you for taking the time to come. It's an honor and a privilege, and I've said that from the very beginning, and know that I mean that from the very bottom of my heart. Every day that I have the opportunity to serve you and to be able to do good on behalf of the people of this state is a privilege, and I'm very honored to be able to be here. Now today, by the way, I don't know if you knew this, was Take Your Child to Work Day. And so just for a side note, we were going to bring them here. I had this big discussion, but they had something going on at school, and they didn't want to miss it. But as we were driving in here, we were thinking about it. We're going to pass Cold Cow. And I was like, wait a minute, if they knew that, they would definitely have wanted to skip school to come with us to work today. So, but it's good to be back home, too, because as we're driving around and, we have a lot of good memories here. Heck, we probably knocked on a lot of your doors back in the day. It's good to be back. So, I just wanted to say this. I think there's kind of like a misunderstanding, or just a misunderstanding, I guess, is the best way to say it, about what Hope Florida is. Hope Florida is not a program. Hope Florida is an idea. Hope Florida is a philosophy. It is, how can we help people in need and do better, legitimately? It's not about just giving somebody a check and hoping it goes well and we'll see you later and this is what you're entitled to and that's the end of the story. What we've tried to do is to really re-engineer, rethink the way that we can help somebody, to help guide them on a pathway to economic self-sufficiency. to help them on a pathway ultimately to happiness. Because I know a lot of people in this room, it hurts your soul if you see somebody suffering and you know that you can do something about it, that you can lend them a helping hand. I mean, I've seen people on the side of the road and I think to myself, there is something that can be done. There is no reason, if they do not want to be there, that they should be there. So how do we legitimately help people? And this really emanated from talking to a lot of people all across the state about how can we do better, not going into it with a preconceived notion of, oh, we know how to do this, we're government, we'll figure it out. No, government's the problem, right? You're the solution. So how do we then leverage government to be able to help the people across the state and leverage the resources that the governor mentioned are already existing in society? Well, the idea came from you going around and talking to key stakeholders, whether it was the faith-based community, whether it's the nonprofits, whether it's the private sector, local government, state government. And when you go and talk to key people who are in the fight, you find something becomes very clear. And that is, it's all siloed. There are good things happening, but there's little communication and collaboration to be able to help good people in need of help. There are good people who are willing to help. The question is can you make the connection? And so you saw that. So then we internalized that and we said, okay, because of the late 1960s and the way that people who were vulnerable came into government to get assistance, we said, okay, well, because we're government and the most vulnerable people are coming in to get help, we're uniquely positioned to be able to make a connection now with people who need help to go back to the community where they had always been, really from the beginning, right? The community is always the one that's the key player to make a difference, not government. So now we're able to get them back in a meaningful way back into the community to get help. So how do we do that? What is this process, this pathway to self-sufficiency, the pathway to prosperity, a pathway to purpose? What does this all start with? Well, it's a couple of things. One, it's a number. You call a number 833-GET-HOPE, and you can talk to a human. How novel is that, by the way, to be able to talk to a human? It's like you want to be able to just, especially if you're suffering, to be able to have that human-to-human relation, to be able to put your guard down for a second to say, I'm struggling and I need help and here's what I need help with. The other thing that we do is we take a proactive approach to this, which is also pretty novel for government, which I think is great. If we see you're on government assistance, how about this? How about we call you? And the navigators will say something as simple as, hey, I see that you're in need of help. What's going on? How can we help? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And imagine what that does to somebody's soul to think, man, you're taking an interest in me. You want to see what I have the potential to do. You want to be able to walk with me, to be able to help me get on this pathway. So that's very special. We also take a unique approach, as he mentioned, with the sheriff's deputies, all 67. That's impactful because, as what he said, you have our deputies who are on the front lines and they see a lot of suffering. But sometimes they don't know where to go and they don't know where to turn. And they might know of one or two nonprofits, but maybe if they get into this the Hope Florida initiative, they can understand there's a lot more. Hey, call this number, or let me let you talk to somebody who's involved in this, and they're going to help you. You know, our CPIs, our Child Protective Investigators. So, you know, prior to the governor being elected, they would be going out, they would be investigating child abuse and neglect. If they didn't see any reason to take a child from the household, a lot of times prior to him, that's where the story would end. But they would see that they needed help, that there were problems there. So how about now reach out to a Hope Florida navigator and start to get in front of it? And how about this? How about we keep people out of government? How about we prevent people from having to go into a potential culture of dependency? How about we help them communicate with the communities so that way they can start to see their God-given potential. They can start to see the pathway. They can see that there are skills out there that they can acquire through all of the things the governor's done, vocational, technical, rapid credentialing, paid apprenticeships, all of our colleges. We even have Hope liaisons in all of our 28 colleges across the state. Now they can start to see it, and then they can start to see, and it doesn't happen overnight. Pathway to economic self-sufficiency is going to take a minute, but now you can start to see that there are jobs available to meet the skills, and it all becomes clear. And you have that one navigator who's holding their hand, because again, it goes back to what I said earlier. A lot of people who are calling, who want to admit that they're suffering and need help, don't want to have to tell their stories 18,000 times to 18 different people, to 18 different bureaucracies, only to have to keep sticky notes on the refrigerator door to figure out who did I talk to, it's hard. And you're struggling, and you're suffering. You're trying to keep a job. You're trying to put food on the table. There's a lot of opportunity out there within the community. You need that navigator to be able to hold your hand, to take on the burden, and to help navigate all of the different entities that are out there. What else I'm very proud of, that we're the first state in the nation to do, is to embrace the faith-based community in a meaningful way. And that is a game changer. And I would recommend every state across the United States to do the same. And here's why. We have 16.5 million people of faith across the state of Florida, 20,000 institutions of faith. They've always been there ready and willing to help, but they never knew some of these people were over here suffering in need of help. So now government has become a communicator and a collaborator with the churches, which is huge. He mentioned the care portal technology. That's really the connective tissue that we use. So as our navigators are working, as they talk to somebody, right, who's in need of help, let's say they're talking to a single mom, and that mom's going through a list of things that she might need help with. There are nonprofits, right? We're going through a Rolodex of all of the nonprofits that are available to be able to meet those needs. But then we take it one step further. We go to our churches, and we use something called the care portal technology, which is really fantastic. So you have the navigator saying, okay, I see you're having a hard time. Like, this is a true story, actually. There was a mom who had a broken refrigerator, and she was really struggling to keep food fresh in the house and didn't know what to do. So the navigator put into the care portal request an electronic alert to all of the participating faith-based organizations saying, can you help this mom, ? Within minutes, it was met. And the church literally delivered everything to her front doorstep. Fresh cooked meals, lasagna, whatever. Imagine what that does. The church and good people in the community now realize that mom needs help and she's suffering. An unbelievable connection with so many layers that I couldn't even sit up here and articulate to you just happened because you have good people who wanted to help, good people in need of help, and now they're together. And that does so much, not only to put food in the refrigerator and to get a new refrigerator, which they ended up doing, it does so much for their soul. And you know what it provided? Hope. That's what this is all about. It's about hope, giving somebody a helping hand to be able to find hope and happiness. So we've been able to do that. And to his point, it doesn't just pertain to single moms. It's single parents. It's children aging out of the foster care system, foster and adoptive families. It's our veterans, elder affairs. Just imagine if the church knew that there was a senior citizen sitting at home by themselves, and they were sad and alone and didn't know where to turn. If the church knew that that person were there, don't you think for a second you guys would show up with a plate of lasagna or whatever? I sang lasagna, but whatever it might be, something to say, hey, how's it going? Or different nonprofits that are out there that provide these companionships. But imagine if you're suffering to try to go to Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever it might be to figure out what pieces you have to put together. It's confusing. You can have the best resources in the world. You can have the best programs in the world. But if you don't know that they're out there, what good are they? Particularly if you're suffering. So as you follow this path, right, is this philosophy, this idea that we can do better, that we can legitimately help people. That's what it's rooted in, helping people. You can see that as we evolve, we meet immediate needs, we triage those needs, we involve the faith-based community. We also provide something that's really powerful, which is mentorship. So for a single mom, let's say, she's holding down a job, she's getting her skills, she's trying to do everything. We say, oh, and by the way, there's some really good mentorship opportunities for your child. Take a child fishing, big brothers, big sisters, whatever it might be, and think about now what that does, because I can tell you the one thing that you can do to change the trajectory of a child who is suffering or who has troubled beginnings or has dealt with just difficult times is to be able to provide mentorship. I've actually worked with our juvenile justice system, and I've had a chance to meet kids who have gone through tough times and have come out successful on the other side. And many of you have heard me say this, but I will ask them all the same question. As a matter of fact, I just did this last week. I asked them all the same question. I said, how did you get here? Because I was meeting them at the governor's mansion. So they've really accomplished great things. They're entrepreneurs, they're class presidents, they're going to college, they're doing all these things, and they all give me the same answer, every single one of them. In a different way. They don't know that they're doing it, but they do. They say, somebody took an interest in my life and they gave me value. They gave me worth and they gave me hope. And that changed the trajectory. But then I got to thinking, because I was talking to a lot of these people and, with the children, I'm thinking, what Hope Florida's doing It's providing mentorship of people who are struggling. Just because you're older than 18 doesn't mean you don't need a mentor too. And having that person to be able to lean on, to cry on their shoulder, to get through tough times, man, I don't even think that people realize what that does. That gives you so much hope that you can do it. And to have somebody on the other end of the line when you're struggling as a single mom say, you got this, you can do it. Let me show you all of the jobs. Let me show you all of the skills. Let me show you Santa Fe College, great college, where they literally will show you how to get skills for a job that is already in the workplace. They kind of work backwards. And by the way, this college is really great. They provide childcare for you and your family while you're sitting there getting these. So there's all these things that are out there. So you have the navigator who's really trying to put all of the pieces together to help on this pathway to economic self-sufficiency. And so I would just say from the bottom of my heart of everything that everybody is doing to try to make a difference, what we are doing is good. What we are doing is just. Sometimes you have to put on the full armor of God and you fight because you know what you're doing is righteous. You know that you're fighting for somebody who needs someone to fight for them, that they might not have felt that. But I would say to all the navigators that I've had the opportunity to meet in particular, you're doing good. And we're proud of you standing up every day. I mean, I've met some of these navigators, and they really are the secret sauce, right, to be able to take this interest. These navigators are spending their weekends, their time off, their holidays, going around to people's homes if they don't think that they're going to have a Thanksgiving meal, literally doing it on their own dime because they believe in the mission. We have a 93% retention rate with our Hope Navigators. And why? Because for the first time, they're within government, right? These are a lot of people. 93% also, by the way, have been repurposed. So they were processing grants and payments in the beginning. Now they're navigators. They're a part of the solution. And when I talk to them, they say, for the first time, I feel empowered to make a difference. Prior to this, I felt like, it was just, here's your check and, hope it goes well. And, I wanted to do something, but I couldn't. Now they can. Now they can be a part of the solution. Now they can feel empowered to be a difference maker in their life. And I think that that is incredibly powerful. And so we're going to continue to fight. We're going to continue to work on how we can leverage our faith-based communities to help with daycares. We're going to look at how we can help kids with unique abilities in schools, because I'll tell you, there's a lot of kids and parents, when they find out that their kid has a unique ability, they don't know where to turn sometimes. They don't know the questions to ask. They feel like they're on an island. How about we bring it all together? How about if your child needs help, maybe they need a wheelchair? How about instead of going to the taxpayer, let's go to the faith-based community? Because I can tell you in 2 seconds, if you see a carport entry saying this child, your congregation is going to raise the money and they're going to get it done. That's just what you do because that's what in your soul. That's why you guys do what you do. And so that's why we wanted to leverage that to work collaboratively with government. And so the last thing I'll say is no matter what, is written, don't ever let politics get in the way of purpose. And at the end of the day, I would just ask, the media to really do one thing. Just give the number, okay? 833-GET-HOPE, because people who are watching, people who are reading, there are people who are suffering and they do not know where to go. And if they knew that that was there, that someone was willing to listen and help them on a pathway to whatever they want, happiness, prosperity, self-sufficiency, purpose, volunteering, job, whatever it might be, it's there. So I would just say your call to action would be 833-GET-HOPE. And again, it's just a privilege and an honor to fight for some good folks who deserve someone to fight for them.
Hi, good morning. It is an honor to be here today at the Anchor Faith Church along with Governor DeSantis and First Lady Casey DeSantis, with Hope Navigators and so many others from the St. Augustine community. My name is Taylor Hatch, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Secretary of the Florida Department of Children and Families. It is an agency and a constituency which I am honored to represent. Promoting strong, resilient, and economic self-sufficient families is our department's mission. To deliver on this mission, we challenge ourselves to be as proactive as possible and as agile as the people that we serve. Empowering people with dynamic and various needs to achieve their goals and in turn deliver outcomes that have generational impacts. Hope Florida is an exemplification of this mission and this vision, and began as a way to answer the call to deliver for Floridians, oftentimes when it matters the very most. Through the bold leadership of Governor DeSantis and First Lady Casey DeSantis, the Hope Florida program is being woven throughout our DNA as a philosophy, one of which can be replicated through navigation and going beyond the four walls of government to provide meaningful and lasting connections, breaking governmental dependency, achieving person-centered goals, and providing hope to Floridians and their families. I want to thank the governor and I want to thank the First Lady for their leadership and for continuously challenging rigid governmental infrastructures where they exist to deliver for the people that they were created to serve. This event is another example of their leadership in action. Their commitment to the people of Florida, it goes beyond words. Their commitment is told through the stories of people's lives, some of which we are going to highlight today. Embracing the role that we all play in supporting one another and strengthening communities, their visionary leadership is building lasting and meaningful support systems that utilize government to act as a catalyst, make connections to resources, and equip individuals and families to move forward, overcome barriers, and reach their full potential. When an individual is connected to Hope Florida, our dedicated Hope navigators begin identifying not only what that individual or family needs immediately, but also what their goals are and how we can assist them in connecting them to resources to accomplish those goals. Hope Florida serves as a powerful connection point between individuals who need help and the many organizations who are ready and waiting to help. Every day, we hear impactful testimonies from Hope Florida participants whose lives have been forever changed by the solution that is Hope Florida. Today, we are honored to be joined by Katrina and her mother, Cynthia, whose story I had the pleasure of getting to know during my time serving as the director for the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. Through outreach, a Hope navigator from the Agency for Persons with Disabilities named Yolanda Rowling, who is also here with us today, connected with Katrina and Cynthia, who expressed an interest in connecting to behavioral health services and additional community involvement for Katrina. Through active listening and relationship building, the Hope navigator also learned that Katrina loves horses, as it reminded her of fond childhood memories. Hearing this, the Hope navigator immediately went to work to connect Katrina to Hope Therapy, which is a local not-for-profit who provides equine services and therapy for children and adults with disabilities or unique abilities, which for Katrina combines Katrina's love for horses, her memories from childhood, and the need for therapeutic supports all in one. With her immediate goal addressed and a boost in confidence, as well as continued support from her mom and her Hope navigator, Katrina went to work on her next milestone of combining her talents and goals, which was to consistently operate a small business in which she sells her tie-dye t-shirts and beaded jewelry. In fact, Katrina now sells her work at the Hope Therapy Farms, where she has also stayed committed to volunteering with the horses. Katrina's mother was so inspired by the spark that she saw in her daughter that she has started her own not-for-profit, which is called the Friendship Project. She developed this as a platform to advocate and to bring awareness for the disability community. Just like Katrina's story, there are so many Floridians served through the Hope Florida philosophy that are receiving supports and direct connectivity to community resources and partners in their own backyard. The Hope Florida philosophy is built on the fundamental belief that all Floridians can achieve their God-given potential. At the department, our role is to connect individuals and families with local community-based supports, including not-for-profits, private sector, the faith-based community, to create lasting connections. Then get out of the way and let them build their lives that they have dreamed of. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today.
Good morning. My name is Aaron Pallone, and I'm a Hope Navigator with the Florida Department of Veteran Affairs. And first, I'd like to say thank you to Governor DeSantis and First Lady Casey DeSantis for inviting me. And we had some last-minute changes, so please apologize. I wasn't able to wipe the red Kool-Aid off my upper lip here, so please forgive me. No, but at least for me, you know, being a veteran myself and serving as a Hope Navigator for Florida Department of Veteran Affairs, at least for me, it's really about making that connection with veterans that, you know, I assist and come into contact with. I hear all too often, really, I had no idea that existed. And so you can see on the graphics here, finding help, that's really what we do as navigators, because there's a lot of programs out there that are just lesser known because they're not advertised. And so I'd like to highlight just a couple of veterans that I've come in contact with and partnered with faith-based you know, community partners. And through the Care Portal program, like Mrs. DeSantis had spoke about earlier, I'm seeing some friendly faces. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. No, so, you know, due to hurricane impacts for a single mother in the Tampa area, you know, her home had got flooded, and, you know, she didn't have a washer and dryer to wash their clothes for her and her children. So reached out to Care Portal. Church came in, removed the damaged washer and dryer, and gave them a brand new one. So it's actions like that where it's about putting our arms around the veteran community. And, you know, I was talking with our executive team earlier today, actually, and, you know, he was talking about, hey, you know, with a service officer, you know, assisting a homeless veteran isn't really in their purview and what their scope of what their day-to-day operations are. So until the expansion to the Florida Department of Veteran Affairs, as Hope Navigators, we can make contact with those community partners and organizations that can get a homeless veteran off the street and get them into sustainable housing. So that's just a highlight of a day-to-day what I experience through veterans and community partners. And we're only as good as our partners, so we really rely on them to be able to wrap their arms around veterans. And another example is, you know, a veteran who had gotten out of the service, you know, back in the 70s, didn't have any documentation or his DD-214 say, hey, yeah, I know I was a service member. So got a referral for him, and it's little things like that of like just knowing where to go to get that information is what I find to be impactful as well, because when I transitioned out of the Air Force, I had no idea what a service officer was until I got into this position. So since then, I've been able to get service connected and benefit from the information that I've received just being in this Hope Navigator position. So again, thank you everybody for attending today. And I'd like to just continue to let people know Hope Navigators are there to step in and assist and help guide you along the way. So thank you again. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Brown, and this is my daughter, Katrina Daly. First, we want to thank you, Governor DeSantis and First Lady. Thank you for having us. Trina had planned to speak. So Trina runs her own business. Trina runs, it's called Tie-Dyes by Trina. She does tie-dyes. Do you want to?
I do tie-dyes and bracelets. See? And then I work at McDonald's for 3 years.
Trina has really come a long ways. So our story did not start out that way. Trina is what is considered a mentally vulnerable adult. She is diagnosed with IDD, intellectual developmental delays. Trina became a victim of online. Some people got a hold of her online and coaxed her into leaving home 4 times total. So we were one of those people that were kind of left, not knowing what to do. I mean, when you wake up and your kid's not in their bed, is very scary. Obviously, our first thing was law enforcement. Thankfully, our law enforcement understood the need to get her home safely. They went through any barriers they had to do. She has been Baker Acted, and through that, we learned really what Florida had to offer. As silly as that may sound, we did not understand the connections our community had. We really felt that island of aloneness. And I do believe that God works miracles. We have learned so much. We have become so connected since this. Getting Katrina home so she was found in Orlando. Getting her home was one thing, and then we did not even know where to go. We contacted APD, and Yolanda called us and let us know, hey, we've got you. You're fine. You're going to be okay from here on out. What is your immediate need? Because during that time, you don't really know what your immediate need is. So she said, look, what do you need today? And then we're going to work on what you need 6 months from now, 12. And we've been doing this for 2 or 3 years now. And she has worked with us along the way. Trina, since then, her therapy has been horse therapy. She found, along with Yolanda, found her way of what is her release? What allows her to continue to be Trina, but find who Trina is meant to be through all this. So we joined forces with Hope Therapy. She now has her own horse. Do you want to speak on that?
Yes, I have my own horse. His name is Roni, and I train him. It's kind of hard to say.
So you feed him?
Oh yeah, I feed him some hay and carrots and apples, and then Becky, she taught me how to follow the horse everywhere I go, behind and front.
So through that, Trina has learned to gain trust in herself, confidence in herself, respect in herself, but also in others in the community. So and we've explained this to her, being able to gain trust from an animal that size is huge. So now she's working on her goals with the horses. She's gonna start doing demos. She has a friend that works with her. Trina does her tie-dye, her best friend does photography. So now what we do is we build that community. The biggest thing when we got Trina home is I said, why? What happened? Where did I fail you first? And what can we do to fix this? And her response was, I don't really have anywhere to hang out. There's nowhere I can go to just be me. I can't hang out in the local places, Not that she's not quite accepted, but it's not her thing. So we had to find Trina her thing in her own little group of people. So now that's why we did the Friendship Project. We are based on finding a safe environment for our local vulnerable adults and even children, families, to come together. We have provided over 15 families with Christmas, and we're talking the full family, not just the adult. The full family with Christmas. We have done Easter. We've done a Valentine's dance in our neighborhood where we provided dinner, a DJ, all of us dance together. We do crafts with the neighborhood kids. We just egg the whole neighborhood with plastic eggs.
And then I go to Night to Shine every year.
Yep, we do Night to Shine with her group, and so we sponsor her group to get their hair done, nails, all their dresses. We've actually teamed up with some of the local churches. We found out that some of them will provide dresses too. And amazingly enough, listening to how this all came together, I didn't realize how, and I told my family, I don't know how we connect here. Listening to, I get it now. When Trina was first come up missing, one of my things was I didn't know what to do. As a mom, you want to outrage, you want to act out. I had somebody come to me and say, hey, let's get off the streets, let's talk this out, let's get to church. And so I was actually third in line to get baptized. I had never been baptized, it was my only dream. And I was third in line when they called me and said, your daughter's been found. I lost it. Trina has since been baptized at the same church. I've gone through Freedom there. I've gone through a lot of different programs to help me as a mom, as a woman, as a wife, just as a person. I wasn't always the person that was mellow-headed to give back, to want to do for others. But now that is what our family does. That's we want to give back. Trina does her bracelet. She turns them. Michelle Cook, she gives them to all her sheriffs in the
Oh, yeah,
community.
I do. All the police, yes.
She's got a detective
Yep.
she works very closely with. She just adores him. He has been a saving grace in our family. So a lot of things we realized that it took the community to tie together to allow us to heal. Our family would not be where we are today if it weren't for people like you giving back to people like us. And we wouldn't be allowed to give back to the other people that we're finding that need it if it weren't for people like you. So in closing, I just want to say I am so very thankful, and we are not done. Our goal now is to build a food truck to employ special needs adults. That's what we are working on, and we will get it done. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Come on up.
So it takes a lot of courage and passion to be able to come up and speak to you all. So I just want to, again, tip my hat to both of you. You did great. And thank you for sharing that, because we can talk about Hope Florida all day, but to see the everlasting effects is something else. So thank you. That was amazing. Good morning. I want to first thank the governor and the First Lady for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. I've had to take a few notes because if you know me, you'll know that if I don't, I will talk your ear off about Hope Florida for hours, and I know we have things to do. My name is Liz Phillips, and I have been employed proudly with the Department of Juvenile Justice since 2007. In that time, I have seen some truly amazing things happen with state government, but I have to say, in the 2+ years we've been doing Hope Florida, I have never seen anything as transformational within our agencies. Never. This is not just a program. Hope Florida truly reimagines how we serve people. It gives families something that so many systems just can't, and that's a person. A real connection, someone to walk alongside them from the moment they call to the moment they find their version of self-sufficiency, peace, happiness, however you want to call it. When they find that is when we know that we've done what we needed to do. The First Lady mentioned it, but I really want to hit on it again. In government, we often work in silos, side by side, but rarely working hand in hand. Since Hope Florida has begun, we have really begun to break down these walls. It allows us to collaborate across departments and agencies with navigators who aren't just names on a referral list. These are experts, these are partners, these are problem solvers. At DJJ, our Hope Navigators are well-versed in walking alongside families, dealing with some serious youth behaviors, some real challenges, truancy, running away, other behavioral issues that are just, when you're in that moment, it's hard. It's hard seeing the person that you love most in this world start to go sideways and you not know how to help them. We understand how overwhelming these situations are. And when families also include veterans, a senior, or somebody with a disability, we don't just hand them off and say, have a good day, when we're done with the DJJ-related concerns. We reach out to our sister agencies where other Hope Navigators exist, and they have that expert knowledge. They have that institutional knowledge of their own agencies. And then together, we build this truly amazing wraparound system for the whole family. I get a little emotional because it's been a lot, but I want to say we have real families in real crisis. We get calls every day. These are parents, sometimes grandparents, working hard. They're working multiple jobs. They're doing everything they can to just hold it together for themselves and most importantly for their children. They're not looking for handouts. They're looking for somebody to listen, They're looking for somebody to help them navigate through the hardest times of their lives. They're looking for a lifeline to preserve their family. Hope Florida is giving them that. A single number, a dedicated navigator, and a system built around walking with them step by step. This is not a sprint. You don't just snap your fingers and everything is fixed. It's a journey, but they are not by themselves, and they have somebody to walk alongside them until real, local, viable solutions are found. But that's not just it. It's not just about connecting families to services. Hope Florida is truly about building relationships between navigators and families, but also between families and their local communities. Because we don't want government to be the forever solution. We want to help people build lasting support around them. These are neighbors. These are faith partners. These are mentors. This is the schools. We want to do that so that we can get them connected, supported, and then we as government can get the heck out of the way and let community step in. I know that there's been some media attention and some misunderstanding about the program, but I want to say this clearly, and my voice is shaking, but my words could not be any more true. The impact of Hope Florida, this is real, and it is deeply human. To any legislator or leader who has questions about how Hope Florida works on the ground level, I would be honored to spend a morning or an afternoon with you. Come see the work, meet the navigators, witness the impact. Watch what happens when a parent who is feeling hopeless meets someone who simply refuses to give up on them. This work speaks for itself when you see it up close. I am one person, and I stand proudly before you as a navigator, but I do not stand alone. I am standing up here for the Courtneys, the Emilys, the Beths, the Nashiras, the Gigis, the Aarons, the Rachels, the Zandras. These are real navigators across the state, housed in different agencies, who wake up every single day ready to bring hope to somebody. This isn't just government work. This is human work. This is the kind of work that builds stronger families, stronger communities, and a stronger Florida. Thank you very much.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Pastor Earl Glisson, the pastor here at Anchor Faith Church, and I thank the Governor and First Lady for being here. It's such an honor to host this event today because what's going on is really important. You know, there is a term that's used here, Hope Florida. Biblically speaking, hope means a confident expectation. However, most of the time in the world when someone says hope, they say, well, I hope so. And they really aren't confident that it may not come to pass. In fact, hope to most people is like winning the lottery. We may or may not. However, our governor and first lady, through this administration, has brought the biblical word of hope back, which is confident expectation. That when you call 833, right, get hope, you will have a confident expectation that I am going to be helped, that someone cares for me, and that someone's going to do something. And the brilliance and insight and wisdom that they had to be able to connect with faith-based communities is, I mean, it transcends what other states are doing. I want to read you one passage of Scripture before I give you some real experience from us as a church. In Luke chapter 5, verse 7, Jesus Christ, the head of the church, said he told Peter to go out and launch into the deep and let out his net. And he said, look, I've done this all night long. We've caught nothing. He said, just do it. He said, at your word, I'm going to. So he drops down the net and he starts to catch so many fish, he cannot pull them in. So he calls his partners in verse 7, signaling his partners. The other boat came, and as they brought in all these fish, not only did it fill up his boat, but the boat of his partner, so full that by the time they finally reached the shore, they were almost both about to sink. You know what that tells us? There are so many fish out there that not one boat can handle the supply. And our governor and first lady had the insight to be able to recognize there's another boat out there. There's another partner. And this partnership that they did with the faith-based community was so full of wisdom because, listen, we live in the community. This is where we live. We live here, we connect here, but we also have relationships here. And the next thing the church has is that we are a culture of serving. Because the head of the church says, if you want to be the greatest leader, be the servant of all. And so they tap in to a group of people who are eagerly waiting to be deployed to help others in need. And so what we have done since we became part of the Care Portal process, we began really active in the month of August. There was a little bit of onboard training. But we have, because again, it's based upon counties, and so you understand we've responded to 15 requests. The church met 10 of those particular needs. There were 17 children that we specifically served during this 8-month process. Financially, this church has made an impact of $15,821. Just this church alone. As First Lady said, there are 20,000 faith-based people, communities out there, or different organizations. If you take our number, times it by that 20,000, we get them involved. That's 316 million plus that could have been added to areas in our state that the government did not have to be a part of. And the church loves to be a resource. So this partnership's powerful. I remember Kenny and Kay here at our church, they responded to a call of two boys, Kyle, and the other one was Ashton, and both of them needed clothes. It was a situation. I remember after service, I said, hey, Pastor Earl, we've got to run. We're going to go by and pick up the boys and take them shopping. And took these boys shopping. We provided Publix cards. We've done a lot of gift cards to be able to provide different resources to people. In fact, there was one particular testimony where a grandmother had received custody of a child or grabbed her grandchild, and so she was in need of a car seat. So we responded to that. We purchased that. And then, you know, again, in our community, we already have relationships. And so that person who responded a couple days later reached out again, asked, how are you doing? What's going on? Prayed with them. Well, they ended up going to court. And when they came to court, you know, the prayer time that he had was, you know, we need to be able to keep full custody, and we definitely want to be able to restore my relationship with my daughter. That day she went to court. Her daughter was there. The judge gave her custody. Her daughter was restored in a relationship with her mother that now lives with her in her home. And the judge says, can you take this child home? And because of the car seat that we were able to purchase because of Care Porter and Hope, Florida, she was able to confidently tell the judge, yes, we can. And so I cannot say enough about how Hope, Florida has streamlined and made things available for the faith-based community and government. When people say there should be a separation between the two, it doesn't happen. It is a farce. Listen, the church is never going to come into government and tell you how you should write things for us. Neither is the government coming and telling us what to do. However, as just humans, we come together and we make a difference in our communities. And they had the insight to not leave a boat on the shore, but said there's plenty of people out here and this group's already been deployed. Let's help them help us, and together we can do more together. And I cannot be more excited to be a part of Hope, Florida, and helping this process along. Thank you again, Governor. Thank you, First Lady.
Well, I mean, that was some inspiring stuff. I really want to thank everybody that has been involved and continues to be involved. We're going to continue the momentum. We understand there's a lot more that needs to be done. We understand that the success is great, but ultimately you can't rest on that. You got to keep going forward. So we're going to be doing that. You're going to see some great announcements coming up in the next days and weeks, and I'm confident it will continue to really make a difference in people's lives. So thanks, everybody that's been involved. Okay, I got time to take a few questions back there. Anybody?
Governor, can you clarify how the $10 million donation for Hope Florida is separate from that $67 million settlement last fall involving the Florida agency?
So ACA put out they put out the letter with all the documentation. So I would just look at that. It totally debunks the bogus media narratives that were out there. ACA had to do this. They did it appropriately, and it advanced the policies of the state of Florida. And I think those were very important documents to see.
Do you have a response, though, to those lawmakers that are still, trying to ask those questions about just the support?
So the documents that ACA put out, they were told this was coming. Partisan journalists were told this was coming, and they still tried to produce these phony narratives. Then the documents came out, and it showed basically what was done by ACA, how they negotiated it, and it also even had the documents from the company. So that debunks the phony narrative. Why are they doing the narrative? They're not doing it because they really care about that. They're doing it to try to impugn Hope Florida. They're trying to smear this program. Some of them, some of these lefty journalists don't like it. They don't like you working with the faith-based community. Some of these people, view it as a way to attack the First Lady and all the great things she's done because they view her as a threat. So that's what's motivating this. And so the reality is this has done an enormous amount of good, and I'm proud of the program, soup to nuts. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you soon.